Rafael Nadal, the fiercest competitor in tennis history, was spotted sobbing on video. Not following a defeat. Not in an interview after retirement. Sitting at home in Mallorca, he witnessed a 20-year-old Filipino girl, with a racket in hand and tears streaming down her face, fall to the ground on the opposite side of the globe. Rafa also broke. The video went viral on the internet. Millions of views in a few hours. Suddenly, people who hadn't thought about tennis in years were unable to put down their phones. Everybody has the same query. Who is she? And why is she so important to him? I will inform you. It goes far deeper than you might think, I assure you. Imagine Mallorca's Rafael Nadal Academy. Clay courts scorched in the sun. Strict timetables. Under an indifferent Mediterranean sky, elite juniors from all across Europe subject their bodies to daily hardship. This is not a gentle place. It was based on perseverance, grit, and the conviction that champions are created, not found. A 12-year-old girl from Manila entered those gates in 2016 with just one bag and a dream that was most likely too big for it. Alex Eala was her name, and very few people had any idea what to think of her. She remained silent. She was diminutive. She is from a nation where tennis does not dominate national discourse, where infrastructure is inadequate, and where the path to professional tennis is really more difficult structurally than most junior tennis players in Europe would ever have to take. No well-known family name. In the sport, there is no generational bloodline. No form of safety net. What she possessed was a scholarship and a readiness to endure hardship in order to pursue her passion. Scholarship athletes are not given special treatment by the academy. The bar is, if anything, greater. You wake up every morning and demonstrate your worth against children supported by wealthy families, well-established coaching networks, and contacts that span the whole junior circuit in Europe. Nevertheless, Eala trained. Matches that ought to have gone to her were lost. Exhausted and occasionally heartbroken, she dragged herself back to a dorm room in a distant nation and arrived the following morning before the sun had fully risen, prepared to leave once more. Even the greatest champion the sport has ever produced, between his own competitions, comebacks, and physical battles, recognizes that kind of quiet, tenacious, unyielding will. Rafael Nadal started observing her growth without any official coaching arrangement or courtside clipboard. What he witnessed in this little Filipino girl reminded him of his own early years on those same courts. When pressed, she didn't crumble. She took it in, changed it, and put it to use. She was a junior Grand Slam champion by 2022, capturing the Australian Open girls title with a style of tennis that forced observers to look for adjectives outside of their typical lexicon. By 2023, she was competing on the professional tour against opponents who were hundreds of places ahead of her in every quantifiable area, older, stronger, and more seasoned. Many of those matches were losses for her. She returned for each and every one of them. No one gave Alex Eala a point that she didn't fight for with all of her might. Miami Open, March 2025. One of the WTA's most important hardcore events. Eala was a wild card, 140th in the world. According to statistics, she had no place in that draw because it was full of players who had been competing at the highest level for years, including top 10 stalwarts and former Slam champions. In the second round, she defeated Madison Keys. Composed. Beyond her years, clinical. The tennis community was taken aback. Jelena Ostapenko, a former Roland Garros winner whose explosive, erratic ball striking confuses seasoned pros, was defeated by her in the third round. Eala adjusted in the middle of the game, didn't freak out, and left the court after handling it. Both eyebrows are firmly elevated. The quarterfinal followed. Swiatek Iga. Global number 2. Several Grand Slam winners. Possibly the most formidable force in women's tennis over the last 3 years, this player's mental toughness has crushed opponents to rubble on every surface and under every circumstance. She lost to Eala in straight sets. There was a short circuit in the tennis internet. Clips simultaneously appear on all platforms. Former athletes expressed their shock in public. Journalists on television rushed to find appropriate wording. The frequency with which the word generational surfaced in discussion feeds showed that no one had a better choice. The private message then arrived. Rafael Nadal contacted Eala directly after formally retiring from professional tennis in November of last year in a farewell ceremony that left the sport in true grief. The details weren't made public right away, but in a quick post-match interview that quickly went viral, she mentioned hearing from Rafa with an expression that conveyed something intimate, overwhelming, and completely real. She expressed gratitude, saying that his words meant something she couldn't fully articulate in a press conference setting, but the world understood anyway because everyone who had watched her that week had already witnessed it. The left-handed forehand hit with topspin and controlled aggression, the refusal ability to elevate when the pressure became too great. She performed as though she had received in-depth instruction in the proper techniques. Not from a coaching textbook, but from a man who had experienced each of the values she was modeling. Years before this, Rafa had poured that wisdom into her. Simply put, Miami was the moment the world realized what it had created. June of 2025. England's Eastbourne. Grass court time. Wimbledon is 2 weeks away. Eala made it to the championship game. Championship points came in. She won her first WTA title with a single, flawless, executable shot. She didn't see it. Next comes the next. The game changed. The particular, surgical cruelty that only tennis can produce caused the momentum to vanish. The adversary leaned closer. The audience behind her, which had been boisterous, became stiff with that specific hush that descends when something horrible is happening and nobody can stop it. Eala was defeated. At the transition, she sobbed while sitting in her chair. Nor sobbing calmly, nor crying for the cameras. She sobbed in the raw, unadulterated, completely human way that people cry when they've given everything and yet failed. It has nothing to do with professional expectations, strategy, or optics. It was captured on camera. The video went viral right away. Rafael Nadal spotted it on his phone while he was in Mallorca. He posted the video again. For the words that go with it. For words that, depending on your relationship with sport, with loss, with the special anguish of almost, will either constrict your chest, fill your eyes, or both at the same moment. She'll return. No analysis. No recommendations for enhancements. No polished public declaration. A man who had lost said just 4 words. Wimbledon finals of his own, who comprehended championship point collapses from both sides of the emotional barrier, who knew exactly what Alex Eala was going through at the time, and who wanted her and everyone watching to hear one clear reality. She would return. In just 2 days, hundreds of thousands of comments were made. Nadal lovers, tennis enthusiasts, Filipino supporters, and those who couldn't think of a single player now competing. September 2025. All of them combined under 4 words, and the weight they carried. WTA 250 event in Guadalajara, Mexico. Late-season hard courts are the type of competition where careers subtly change based on outcomes that don't always receive the attention they merit. The day before, Eala had advanced through a 3-set semi-final. Although she was obviously exhausted, impartial onlookers were cautious and said, "Yes, Miami on the resume, yes." However, no prior knowledge can adequately prepare you for the psychological impact of exams. That was previously demonstrated by Eastbourne. The opening set was lost by her. The narrative appeared to be repeating itself until roughly 8 minutes into the second. Sensing the chance, the opposition began building points with increasing assurance. The audience became more subdued, and then Alex Eala felt something change. No one in the audience could determine the precise timing. No obvious release, no dramatic gesture, and no coaching intervention. She merely substituted something controlled, fierce, and completely definite for the first set's careful hesitancy. There was no solid ground for her opponent to stand on. The second set was won by her. The third was won by her. The championship went to her. And 3 years of sacrifice, dorm nights in Mallorca, junior losses, professional setbacks, Miami upsets, and Eastbourne heartbreak all arrived at once in her body when the final point was scored. With her face buried in her hands and her racket somewhere next to her, Alex Eala fell to the court, totally defeated. She spent a lot of time there. The Guadalajara fans gave her their all. And as he watched the video on his screen in Mallorca, the retiring champion who had spent 10 years pouring his values, his competitive philosophy, and his sincere belief into this young woman, felt something burst open in his chest. Within an hour, the video of Rafa's response went viral. Views in the tens of millions. Headlines in 40 different nations. The identical statement was written in multiple languages by journalists who covered tennis and those who did not. In November 2025, precisely a year after the most painful retirement in professional tennis history, Rafael Nadal sobbed as he saw Alex Eala win. Rafael Nadal returned to a practice court with just his practice clothes, 2 rackets, and 1 other person. There was no tournament, no cameras, no press obligation, and no PR plan. For 2 hours, Alexandra Eala and she practiced together. What later surfaced from people close to both, and ultimately from Eala herself in an open interview, was a session that was simultaneously professional and intensely personal, organized and impromptu, technical and emotional. Nadal focused on her forehand in particular. Pressure on the grip when in contact. Angle of follow-through. The mechanics that produce topspin without sacrificing directional control are weight transfer into the ball. Nor ideas that are abstract. The details that distinguish a historic forehand from a good one. He had spent 20 years honing his skills against the best opponents the sport had ever seen on hard, grass, and clay courts. He was providing the blueprint to her. Eala later said that she spent parts of the session persuading herself that it was genuinely taking place. That the person whose name was on the building around them was the one standing across the net, feeding her balls and providing technical advice with the authority of someone with 22 Grand Slam victories. She recounted a particular instance during a rally in which Rafael Nadal personally demonstrated the forehand technique, striking the ball with a quality that reminded everyone watching why the greatest conversation ever revolves around his name. He continued to move with the meticulous deliberateness of a man protecting surgically repaired joints. She claimed to have completely stopped moving. Just observed. Allow the ball to pass. Laughing, he instructed her to continue playing. She claimed that she nearly couldn't. The Guadalajara video traveled in a different way than that clip. Not as